Good afternoon, everyone. It is July 8th, noon at noon. I am Eric Kretsch, one of the staff members at AMI, and welcome to our webinar this month. I'm joined by Brent Wierson from Storable, and our topic today is from waves to words, how AI is transforming marina communications. That's all I have, so I'm going to turn it straight over to Brent.
Awesome.
Welcome.
So this is, other than data, this is my favorite thing to talk about. If you have seen me present before, you'll know I have a lot of slides. I'm going to go through them very quickly. Of course, if you have any questions, we'll try and get to those at the end. Um, the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go through some AI examples. The goal of this presentation is to cater it towards people who are maybe even haven't used AI before, all the way to people who are pretty advanced with using AI. So we'll talk about some of the more advanced tools and what we're seeing operators use in the market. We have some operator feedback, some real examples of what they're actively using. Um, so we're going to go through some examples, then I'm going to go through some high-level industry data points, and then we're going to talk about how AI is impacting business in general. So those statistics are not specific to the marine industry, but give us a view of, corporate adoption of AI holistically. So the first few tools I wanted to talk about is I'm going to go through ChatGPT. Probably most people on the call have used that. Claude, heavily recommend that for documentation. Just going to go through some tips on how to best use these tools. My favorite AI tool, personally, is Suno, which creates custom songs. So I'll talk a little bit about how you can prompt that. That's just kind of a fun one. And we'll also talk about Glean at a high level. I'm not going to show any examples of that. But side note on Glean, we use this internally. Glean is great for taking all your company data and allowing your staff to query it using multiple LLMs and multiple integrations. So you can kind of pull all your data into a central hub. So when you go to ChatGPT, it's searching the internet. Glean, you can actually have it focus on searching your company data and content, which is really interesting. So we won't be going through that today, but that's an interesting tool to look at, especially if you have a bit of a larger organization. So one thing that I like to coach people on in terms of usage is use one AI tool to prompt others, right? So here's a quick prompt. I'm asking it for a prompt for Claude to create SOPs for Marina, right? For boat storage, ship store, and fuel dock. So it's going to generate this wonderful prompt uh, for Claude. Claude is very good at detailed work. So wanted to give you guys some action items you could use, today. And one of those is, you can hop into ChatGPT, hop into Claude, and document all your processes and procedures. That's a really easy one. Obviously, this is great for, creating marketing content. ChatGPT is a great starter tool. Claude is a little bit more advanced. Wanted to show this to y'all because this is really interesting. Claude does a really good job of asking clarifying questions once you put something into it. So I'm going to let it think for a second, and we're going to answer some of these prompts. So some of the prompts will help clarify exactly what it wants you to, to generate. You can generate a Word document from this. You can, with Claude Cowork, you can actually have it write and edit files on your computer. So not only can it generate files, but if you set it up properly, it can edit files on your computer even when you're not there. The other thing I wanted to point out is down here when you create a new prompt, you can switch between the different models. Now, this is important for a couple reasons. If you have a simple query, you can use one of the lighter models and get quicker responses, or you can have it think for longer. Keep in mind, based on what model you use and how much you want it to process, it may use up your tokens more quickly, right? So we'll just say Word document, and we're just going to ask for one department for now, so it doesn't generate everything else. Before this call, I went ahead and put in a prompt here. So I had ChatGPT create a prompt for boat service, and it asked a couple clarifying questions, and I generated some service documentation. And I just want to show this to you about how amazing the documentation it created in about 5 minutes for a service operator. Very detailed SOPs. So if you haven't written your SOPs or haven't written marketing content, it'll be probably 95% correct, and you can just go in and edit it. Another great tip for editing this document is I just go in and add comments into this document, save it, re-upload it, ask it to address the comments, and it'll create a brand new version where it addresses any comments. So if I say, hey, I want to, can you expand on the training notes category, or can you move this category to the top? You can add comments in, and that's just a great way of iterating pretty quickly on your prompts. But once again, if you're in here on ChatGPT, you have different options to create images, create text, and then in Claude, if I put in a new prompt here, you can select between multiple different um, models, right? And select how much work you want it to do. Higher level, effort, extra. These are going to take more time, use up more tokens. These would take less tokens, get you a quicker response. But you get some amazing kind of documentation out of this. If we have time, we'll maybe come back at the end of the presentation, at the end of the presentation, and see what Claude generated. This for this one SOP will probably take about 5 minutes to generate, but it really depends on what you're trying to generate and how. So, overall, would just highly recommend just starting to use the tool. I find a lot of people are just a little bit nervous about it. I mean, don't put anything sensitive into the models unless you have a closed environment and are advised by like an AI consultant or someone that works at one of these entities that it's safe to do. So you can, if you buy a corporate license, get a closed environment where your data won't get shared. But just keep in mind, anything that you prompt in an open environment, you're training the models, and it can take some of the data that you put in if it's not a closed environment. So obviously, be very careful how you're using the tools. So that's a quick overview and just some quick tips. Definitely use one model to prompt another. So marine industry by the numbers, some of these are a few years old, but just high level. 260,000 power boats are sold in 2023. Average price for a boat is 45,000. Thought a lot of these statistics were really interesting to share. Um, Electric boats, I see a lot, just anecdotally, see a lot of Duffy boats at a lot of marinas now, a lot of Duffy rental operations popping up. So electric's been big. Um, and millennials and Gen Z are starting to purchase a lot more boats, which is great. Great for us and the future of the industry. Pretty big economic impact in terms of jobs, 812,000 marine jobs, right? In 2023. So that number's probably approaching a million now. So very exciting about how big, the industry is and is becoming. 40% of new boats include smart boat technology, right? So in future presentations, we'll probably end up talking a lot more about how AI is impacting boats from an IoT standpoint. We're seeing this in super yachts where there's AI-driven like navigation, right? Where AI is actually being used to help navigate the boats. Um, but very excited about how AI can impact things just outside of our ability to automate our businesses, as we'll talk about in a little bit. So, what's going on with AI holistically? This is not marine specific, as I mentioned earlier, but interesting to look at. We're really early in the AI adoption phase. Most people are still piloting or experimenting with AI for folks that are using it. Pretty strong EBIT to impact at enterprise level for folks that are using it kind of at scale. Um, so that's really exciting to see what the impact is going to be. This is a great graph, kind of showing only seven of the 100 queried here were actively using AI fully scaled. So folks that are using it to some degree. Only 7 are fully scaled, 31 are scaling. Most people are in the piloting or experimental phase, which is probably similar to the marine industry and a lot of folks on the call. We're probably a little bit behind in terms of AI usage. This is also interesting where people are using AI. So knowledge management, creating internal documentation process, marketing and sales, interestingly, is using AI more than IT, interestingly enough, and more than software engineering itself. But I believe that'll change pretty aggressively. Large language models, like Claude, are becoming very, very good at software engineering. So really excited for how it's going to be used there. And we're going to talk a lot today about marketing and sales and how it can be used to enhance the customer experience. So larger companies lead the way. I also thought this was interesting. You think, smaller companies could adopt this a lot quicker, but we're seeing kind of at the top end, if you do 5 billion or more in revenue, higher adoption for those companies. I think that's in part because they have the teams to help facilitate it. They can hire people that are dedicated to rolling out AI, and they just have larger organizations that can implement a little bit faster. But we're seeing more and more usage in small businesses under 100 million year over year. So here is the kind of economic impact of how AI has kind of impacted these different business segments. All this data is pulled from a McKinsey report. I'd highly recommend folks dive in and look at the report. You can download it for free. But I thought it was important to kind of go through some of this data on this call to kind of give a foundational understanding of how everyone is using AI holistically. Um, Folks that saw revenue increase, we're not seeing as big of a revenue increase as I kind of thought at this early stage. But once again, if you think about the fact that most people are just still in the experimental or piloting phase, I think these numbers will change dramatically over time as more and more people begin to use AI. Um, and innovation is the area where it's improved businesses the most, using AI to more quickly develop R&D, come up with new ideas, and accelerate the development of R&D. And this is a lot of businesses are only really using AI in a singular function, right? We only have about 20% that are using it in 5 or more functions in their business. So a lot of organizations, just 1 or 2 functions, they're using it in. When you get to 3 or more, it becomes 50% or less overall. Um, some other just impacts: 40% less time spent, up to 50% fewer customer contacts requiring a live agent. So it's been able to reduce the amount of time that we've had to spend talking to customers, because the AI agents are surprisingly good at handling customer queries. One of the major things about using AI is if you prompt it correctly. A lot of questions we get about this is, well, is it going to know how to answer questions correctly? That's really within our control. The AI agents themselves are really good at working off the information we give it. So if you're able to prompt and prime, what's called prime the AI agents really well, to be able to answer questions. If you put in all your SOPs, all your information about the marina itself, what types of, how big of a draft you need to be able to put your boat in a slip, etc. You'll be really surprised at how it can answer questions. In terms of implementing some of the tools we're going to talk about later, would highly recommend you experiment with how to prime these agents and then go in and test them. You can live test them. The other thing that makes rolling out AI a little safer that not a lot of people realize is in real time, you can typically see what the customer communication looks like. So you can even pick up on a conversation that's actively happening with the customer. And if the AI agent is not giving correct answers, you'll know how to correct for that. because you'll see the logs and could even reach back out to the customer if you need to. 26% of tasks were completed by software developers with AI assistance. I think that number is really low and going to dramatically increase over time. And then about two-thirds of the organizations said they've seen measurable productivity and efficiency gains through AI. So great reason to start experimenting with it, right? Um, so the average AI resolve support ticket is about $1 to $2. We're hearing a lot about how expensive tokens are, but if you compare the cost of what organizations are paying for the software tools and tokens, it's a whole lot less than a human handled ticket, which is typically $6 to $12, right? So any inquiry that comes in, it's typically a lot more expensive for that to be human handled versus AI handled if you can prime the AI agents correctly. Um, Another really important statistic I wanted to put in here was 60% of callers call the next business immediately after hitting a voicemail or busy signal. The reason I present this is a lot of organizations are kind of afraid to use AI because it may give wrong answers, but they also are unable to answer the phones kind of after hours. So the cost, this changes the cost benefit analysis when you look at, hey, do I turn on an AI phone agent after hours? When you think about, you know, more than 50% of your customers are probably going to go somewhere else if they can't reach you. Um, then it may be worth turning on an AI phone or chat agent to be able to handle those calls a little bit better. And once again, you can have it answer after hours or whenever you're unable to answer the phone. You don't have to keep it active. You can have people go to a live person during the day and then an AI phone agent or a chat agent after hours. And then 2.8 months is the average kind of payback period for implementing a lot of these software tools. So very interesting statistics. I think we'll be able to share most of this deck after the presentation, and feel free to take screenshots of some of these slides, of course. So we did a consumer survey last year. We may end up doing another one this year, but wanted to present this data. 71% of guests prefer to book online, and a lot of them are doing that on mobile devices. 81% of travelers rely on reviews prior to booking. So why that stat's important and related to AI is AI has made it a whole lot easier for people to research the reviews online. If you put your business into ChatGPT or any of the other areas where people may be searching for services, a lot of the traffic's moving from, the traditional Google search engines to AI, and a lot of people are using AI to research where they should store their boat or rent a boat or get their boat serviced. AI is doing a great job of scanning and crawling all of the reviews and giving a summary of those reviews to customers. They don't have to click through kind of each reviews, and the reviews themselves will the number of reviews and the quality of the reviews will affect your online performance, what's called AEO, which is ranking in the AI search engines. Would highly recommend you not just go to Google and type in boat rental uh, Lake Allatoona or something like that. I would also go to the AI and see, hey, are you popping up in the AI search results as well? Because that is going to be the future of search. The majority still obviously happens on Google, but that's going to change over time. So you want to get ahead of making sure that you rank well and speak with your digital marketing team members and kind of figure out how to best rank online. Um, 55% expect digital check-in and 80% expect a personalized experience. And this is where AI can really help because the more data you have on your customers and the more you can use AI to personalize the messaging from a marketing standpoint or customer intake standpoint or booking standpoint, the more happy your customers are going to be, and the vast majority, expect that personalized experience. High level, this is some more basic information, but just wanted to go through the terminology with AI, right? Because I think a lot of people hear a lot of these different terms, may not know what it means. Narrow AI is very purpose specific, so kind of answers one question in a very sort of direct way. Generative AI is what we just did in the beginning of this call. We generated some documentation on our SOPs. So it's generating things, generate images, text content, different software tools, um, various different tools. So this is a fairly mature portion of AI. Narrow AI has been pretty mature for quite some time. Conversational AI, it's getting better and better. This is kind of almost at mature, especially if you can prime it properly. So we'll talk about a lot of those tools and what different marinas are using. So machine learning and deep learning, that's where the models are taking these large data sets and beginning to um, generate insights out of them, right? So they can begin to forecast things. This is still kind of in the growth phase, but as these large language models are able to digest all these different data sets more and more, it'll get much better at predicting things that may happen in the future from those data sets. Voice AI and speech systems are it's pretty amazing how human-like a lot of the AI voice agents are currently. I'm going to give you guys a phone number you can call into to kind of experience it for yourself here in a moment. Well, hopefully not on this webinar, but maybe after the webinar. Reinforcement learning. So this is where the models are accelerating very quickly. They're able to learn over time, not just from our prompts, but they're writing code within these large language models where the AI is essentially learning from itself without human intervention. And so that's where we're seeing a lot of quick development in terms of how quickly these models are advancing. And predictive AI, this is where AI is going to have a lot of futurists believe this is where AI is going to have the biggest impact in terms of telling us not just what's happening right now or generating materials, um, but looking at, okay, we have this big data set. What's going to happen next, kind of in the future, right? So here, kind of the fully mature narrow AI, machine learning, rapid growth, generative conversation, voice. Those are almost in the mature category, as we mentioned. And then the emerging and specialized, the reinforcement and predictive learning. So very exciting what's coming. And then guest touch points. I mean, it can really not just help your staff internally write SOPs, do things a lot quicker, but can also dramatically change the consumer experience. AI chatbots. So getting a little bit more tactical, wanted to talk through some of the different tools that may be worth exploring out there. Chatbot.com is really great for automated website Q&A. So it'll handle pretty basic information. And it's very low complexity, low cost to get stood up. So if you're an operation that just wants to kind of get their feet wet, chatbot.com might be a great place to start. The other recommendation that we have for folks that are beginning to use AI is priming the chatbots and voice bots. Save all of the content that you use to prime these agents, all of your business information. The reason we mention this is this space is developing very rapidly. And while you may say, hey, we want to use chatbot.com today, a year from now, 2 years from now, you may want to begin to use a different tool and you don't have to start from scratch, right? So save all the documentation you use to prime these agents so you can switch agents in the future. The other reason to do that is there's so many AI companies popping up, and it's developing so quickly that even if chatbot today is the best kind of starter bot, there may be a different one in the future that comes out that has other functionality that you may want to use. There's also integrated environments as well. A lot of the kind of different CRM systems are integrating with some of these other tools and developing their own internal tools. So you may decide to switch from chatbot.com to a different tool because it's integrated with your CRM and you can have it work off that data set as well. So anything you prime it with, keep that documentation. Tidio, it's affordable and fast. This is a great one to look at as well. Slightly more advanced than chatbot.com, but small to mid-sized marinas looking for a quick deployment. This is another great option. Um, Zendesk AI. So this is kind of built off Zendesk's existing kind of ticketing system. Really great for multi-location marinas that are looking to deploy this and track tickets. And it's a little bit more of kind of an advanced system. Zendesk is also a great tool for handling support tickets. Really good reporting, like enterprise level reporting coming out of it, and highly scalable over time. Intercom is another one that is also worth looking at. And here's a quick summary of the AI bots themselves: chatbot.com, Tidio, Intercom, and Zendesk. All worth taking a look at. And once again, you can test them internally. Like you don't have to make it customer facing, have your staff go in and test it. The other thing to think about too, when you're priming the AI agents, it's kind of like training an employee, right? So it's good to have this documentation on hand anyway to train a normal staff member. You can use AI to generate a lot of the materials that you would train your internal staff with, and then also use those same materials to prime the AI agents, which is even more important in this industry where we have a lot of seasonal employees, a lot of kind of younger employees, maybe just working for the summer. So having that documentation, having them train. One thing we'll talk about in a second too is how the AI agents themselves and the AI tools can help your staff. Maybe it's a seasonal employee that doesn't know the answer to a question. You can use this internally as well. So even if you don't have a chatbot that's customer facing, internally, if you build the right tools, your staff can use some of the AI tools out there to query and answer questions maybe they couldn't on their own. And the prompts are very quick, so they can give quick, real-time responses to them. Makes it a lot easier to handle a broad range of questions, especially if you're a seasonal employee. So integration status strategy, if you will, use the bots to pre-qualify reservations, for instance. A lot of them we'll be able to route bookings to staff. You'll be able to get, kind of that first touch point, get a lot more information from the customer in an interactive environment versus they may be willing to give a lot more information to an AI phone agent or chatbot than they would like leaving a voicemail after hours, right? So it's a kind of a great starting point. And once again, you can see the conversation real time as it's taking place. And you can take over the conversation real time as well. So even if you have staff, if you have staff on site that is answering questions and is available, maybe they couldn't get to the phone, it gets picked up by an AI phone agent. They can see the conversation that's happening and decide to hop in and say, oh, okay, this is a great prospect here. They're really interested. I have this data. I can kind of hop into the conversation and sort of take over, if you will. AI phone systems, right? So you got the chatbots, you got the phone systems. So if we can automate some of the inbound phone calls, we talked about how much that could free up your staff and handle calls after hours for the 60% of people that may not leave a voicemail and go to a competitor, if you will. So that may be the best use case to kind of start. Grove Point Marinas, here kind of some of the tools they were looking at, the opportunities they see in the space when they're implementing this is, after hours customer support, and then potential integration. The challenges is cost. Some consumers want to talk to a real person, right? Not an AI phone agent. And then you have to kind of constantly train people on kind of a broader range of software tools sometimes as well. So a really interesting lightweight option, Smith AI, may be interesting to take a look at as kind of a lightweight receptionist option if you're trying to roll out something quickly and cost effectively. Another great tool, Five9. awesome tool for getting better analytics. So this is probably a better fit for larger operations with a lot of call volume coming in, where you get better reporting and analytics. Dialpad, we use this kind of internally here at Storable. Great tool. Can learn off the conversations over time. It's easy to set up and gives you kind of a really easy kind of phone line to use and can track um, can not just give you like an AI phone agent, but is also really good at tracking the conversations you're having with consumers. So it can document those, provide AI notes from the conversations that come in. So if you're managing a marina and you want to see what the communication process looks like with your staff and what's happening on the phone and how they're answering questions, the human folks as well as the AI agents. Um, Dialpad is an excellent tool for that. There are also some outbound options if you ever wanted to have AI agents. If you don't have the time to call a consumer base, kind of like what you do with email marketing, you can segment your customer base and have AI phone agents make outbound calls to consumers as well, which is interesting and worth taking a look at after you implement some of the inbound AI agents, if you will. Talkdesk, very mature tool, similar to Dialpad if you're kind of in a large marina or marina group. Talkdesk may be worth looking at as well. Great reporting, great analytics, um, etc. So overall, highly recommend experimenting with it. Now, one of the major concerns people come up with in terms of, hey, I'm using these agents is, okay, what is this going to sound like? We're used to the kind of narrow AI agents before, and I think that's turned a lot of people off of using AI phone agents. So what I mean by narrow is we talked about the first AI that's really mature. Narrow AI is you call into Verizon, 5 years ago, right? And it's like, hey, do you want to do this, or this? Or maybe, you say something and it directs you, most oftentimes misdirects you. Um, Using the new AI phone agents, it's a lot more conversational. Um, if you call into this number and ask pretty detailed questions, you'll get a really good understanding on how mature these phone agents are. They sound really personable. You can pick from different, kind of personalities to be able to talk to. Um, with different accents and kind of different demeanors on the phone, so that's fun. And a lot of people may not even be able to tell that it's an AI agent versus a human, aside from the slight delay that happens. You'll notice when you call in, you ask a question, the AI needs to think for a second, and before it provides a response. Just as if we go to ChatGPT and put in a prompt, it takes a few seconds to generate that prompt. Um, with additional compute and the models getting more efficient over time, that delay is going to get smaller and smaller. But that's the main tell from a consumer standpoint. So we got the permission from Rob for anyone to call this number. So write it down, take a screenshot, call into his marina, and just ask a couple questions, and you'll get a really good understanding on kind of how mature the technology is. The solution he's using is an AI phone agent that's directly integrated with a CRM product called Go High Level. We're not talking too much about CRMs today, but that's one of the major trends we see in the space. A lot of individual marinas are beginning to use CRM systems, and a lot of the larger enterprise groups are as well. Go High Level is great if you have an individual location. Pipedrive may also be an option for an individual location and then also multiple locations. HubSpot's a great CRM tool. A lot of AI integrations with all of those. And if you're a really large organization, Salesforce may, of course, be an option as well. But we're seeing a lot more kind of CRM adoption in the space. A lot of the marina management softwares, of course, have CRM systems in them, but there's a lot of functionality within some of the very robust CRM systems that there is a reason to investigate CRM usage. AI and marketing. Um, so where you can use AI for your marketing, create a lot more relevant, high-performing content. Um, the more personalized the content, the better. One thing that's held a lot of marinas back from competing with larger groups. So in the rental space, for instance, um, we see Boatsetter and Get My Boat outranking a lot of rental operations because they have a larger marketing team, and they can put a lot more into their marketing. That's not always the case, but rental operators have historically had one advantage, which has been they've been around for a while. Their domain's been around for a while. They've got a lot larger fleets. So they have kind of domain authority. What's held them back is content generation. Well, now that's kind of changed because now those operators can begin to use AI to generate a lot more content, to build out their websites, build out their marketing campaigns, build out their social media, and compete a lot better. So do a quick litmus test, go to Google, figure out how you're ranking for all the different terms that someone may type in, hop into Google Analytics, which will give you an even better, broader view, and figure out what type of content you need to generate and begin to generate that content to compete at a higher level for rentals, boat service, boat storage, really every aspect of the industry. So, you can also use it to do research on competitors, what's happening in the market, anything that's available online and publicly available. The agents can query. Um, Highly recommend you also ask uh, different large language models because you might get different answers about how your current website's performing, how it could be improved, if there's any issues on your website, any technical issues that need to be resolved. In the past, this is another area that kind of held some operators back, is didn't have the technical expertise or the team to be able to go in and find those errors kind of manually. Well, now we can use AI to do that on our behalf. So, um, yeah, the more personalized the content um, to the consumer, if you have data on what type of boater someone is, maybe they like wakeboarding, maybe they like fishing, segment your audience, come up with content that's specific to those audience, to those folks, and they're far more likely to engage with you. So leverage as best you can the data that you have. Once again, be careful about what you put into a non-closed large language model. You don't want to just upload your customer list, right, with all your customer data in there, unless it's a closed company, corporate environment, and you've been advised that that's something safe to do. A few more AI tools to consider about what we're seeing in the space, um, and I'll try and wrap up in the next 5 minutes so we can get to any questions y'all may have. So, predictive asset management is something we're seeing a lot of operators look into, how they predict maintenance. Here are a few tools that we're seeing people use in the space and obviously are being used in kind of other spaces: fix, maintain S, samsara, and upkeep. So if you're looking to try and figure out and predict maintenance better for your marina, these are some great tools that may be worth investigating. Maintain X may be the best for kind of smaller operators. So that's really interesting. Staff enablement. So we talked before about, hey, you have to hire all the seasonal staff. So how do you train them, and how do you train them quickly, right? Here are some really great tools for recording some of the conversations that happen, putting in a lot of the information that you have about your business to better train them and allow them to use these tools to query, right? So Notebook LM, you can take your SOPs, put it into Notebook LM, and they can search your knowledge base. So they're on the phone with the customer, they don't know the answer to a question. A seasonal staff member can just type that question into Notebook LM and answer it real time on the phone. So a lot of really great tools in the space to do that. And this may be for a lot of operators, the best place to start. Go out, generate your SOPs, get everything documented, put it in Notebook LM, and see the responses you get back. And then if the responses that you're getting back from Notebook LM are really good, you'll kind of know, hey, if Notebook LM can answer this question for my staff, there's a high probability that using an AI phone or chat agent, they'd be able to answer that same question. So next steps, identify the areas where, AI can help you the most. I think the first step for a lot of folks is just going to one of the large language models, going to Claude, going to ChatGPT, um, and typing in, hey, how's my website performing, right? How am I ranking in terms of my competition? Hopping into Google Analytics and sort of seeing where you are, seeing where you're ranking versus everyone else, and then choose an AI tool to pilot internally. Have it staff facing at first, and then bring it forward to consumer facing once you feel like it's mature enough. And then a lot of the reporting tools, you can begin to measure those results and say, hey, this is worth something. This is something worth investing in. This is saving time and effort. We're able to handle X number of queries through these AI agents, and then share learnings. You can also pick a staff member and have them kind of, champion a lot of these tools. That's what a lot of organizations are doing that are in the pilot stage, is they have someone on board who their job or part of their job is to get really good at AI and figure out how to facilitate that for the rest of the operation. Sometimes it's difficult to just tell your operation, hey, everyone use AI, right? Sometimes it's better to give someone the lead on it. Another thing to think about in terms of, hey, do I buy a bunch of corporate licenses for a large language model to give my team access to it? There is a little bit of risk that your staff is using AI kind of without your knowledge. So if you don't give them the tool, to the AI tools to be able to use on a corporate license where it's a safe environment, a closed environment, there is a chance that they're going to their own personal ChatGPT account, putting in some of your business information, and there's a little bit of risk there. So definitely educate your team on how to use AI, whether or not you plan to use it or you plan to have a corporate policy or structure that, hey, don't put sensitive information into the large language models that aren't a company closed environment. So definitely educate them on that, and also consider the fact that if you have some fairly tech savvy staff members, they could be using these tools without your knowledge. So with that, I guess we'll turn it over to y'all. I want to hear what you have to say. See if there's any good questions out there. Only softball questions, Eric.
Okay, sounds good. I won't let the difficult questions come through. I have the AI settings for that. Um,
I'm,
I'll
I'm
start
gonna,
off
I'm,
with
I'm
a
gonna pull up AI to answer these questions right now.
yeah, exactly. I'm going to start off with a couple questions I have because I don't see anything yet. But as a reminder to everyone in the audience, if you'd like to ask questions, please go ahead and use the Q&A tool. It's either located at the bottom or the top of your screen there on the little toolbar. You might have to click on more if you can't find it. Just go ahead and type your questions in there, and I'm monitoring that right now. If you do find your way to the chat, you can also add questions in there, and I'll watch that as well. But as you all think about your questions, so Brent, what is the most common way you use AI in your day to day?
Uh, uh, if we are doing something strategically, a lot of times I have to have a lot of strategic conversations kind of multiple times. AI has been really helpful in going in and me prompting it with strategically, we're trying to do this with our marketing, right? We may be making a brand change. We may be, um, you know, trying to go after a particular segment of the market. And I will go to, ChatGPT, create the prompt for Claude, have it create the documentation. From there, I'll edit and iterate on the documentation, and it'll create, a 20-page document that would have taken me 20 hours, right? In about a half hour, it takes me an hour, hour and a half to iterate on it. And whenever I have, the strategy conversation with, let's say our marketing team, for instance, we have a document to work off of, and everything's documented there, and it's so much easier to execute on things. And then you can piecemeal that and look at, hey, these are the different tactical areas we need to execute on for to execute this strategy. And then you can come up with a strategy with how to use AI to execute tactically on that, as well as, so it can start with the strategy and then help you implement tactically. There's a lot of things that are surprising about AI, too. Its ability to write code to create internal dashboards for us has been awesome. So you can go into Claude and if you have enough tokens, have it write software for a particular dashboard. Hey, we're trying to see, all the RFPs that are out there kind of in the space, right? Um, we've used it to crawl and see all the RFPs for marina software out there in the space. We've had it create a dashboard to show us that. We've completely redone our ROI calculator in AI, and I use Glean all the time to query our internal company information to uh, answer a company question, right? So instead of having to go to IT to
Hmm.
get a question answered, I can just go into Glean. All that information's right there, so I can get it cuts down on a lot of that as well. Um, Generating data for this presentation, right? Pulling in a lot of the data, having it validate the data that we presented earlier in the presentation, and creating the slide deck. I mean, AI did the majority of that work. I obviously looked through all the data points, checked it, sanity checked it. Once I got the data points, I also went in and dug a little bit deeper in some of the areas I thought were interesting to see what else we could pull out. Um, yeah, I mean, if you have a task, I would just recommend go to AI first and see what it can do, right? Because
Yeah,
you'd be very surprised at what it can do. Another thing we'd love in terms of kind of feedback for the audience is if there's anything related to AI that we didn't talk about today that you want to hear about, I can try and speak to it now, but we want to help the industry as much as possible. So if there's any tools that folks are interested in learning more about, that you'd like to hear about the next time we speak, we are happy to help generate that content and get it back out to everyone.
great. Thank you, Brent. So we do have some questions from the audience here. We have a couple now. Um, so I got one from John here. What is the smallest, highest ROI AI project a 300 slip marina can implement this year?
So that would obviously be specific to the marina kind of itself. Um, and I think it's a little bit of a progression to get there. I think handling customer communication is an area that can help tremendously with operators. But to get there, sometimes the best path to get there is doing some of the lower ROI components that help you get there, like rolling out the Fathom, for instance, and making your data accessible to the folks that are answering the phones will help you get to creating that phone or a voice agent. um, it's a little bit location specific and dependent also on kind of where the biggest opportunities are. Like if you're marketing really well right now, you're ranking really high in Google for boat storage or in your area, it may be best to focus on the phone agents. If your website and marketing aren't that great, you might want to, start there. Um, to sort of answer that question for your operation, the first thing I would do is go in and run kind of multiple queries and look at whatever existing data you have. So, how many phone calls you're getting after hours, um, how many phone calls you're getting in general,
Mhm.
how many of your customers are engaging with your digital marketing from a email standpoint. Are you performing well there? Are you not performing well there? how does your website have any issues on it, how you're ranking, and kind of score all those different areas across your business. And you can kind of figure out, hey, where do I focus first? Uh, it could be your web presence, it could be your email and social marketing. A lot of marinas are not like kind of ignoring social media as a way to market. Facebook, for instance, has really good tools that help you target your messaging to a particular audience. Facebook has a lot of data on how people have engaged, and if you may be running Google ads, but you may not be running any kind of Facebook ads, right? And AI can help you, generate a lot of the content that would go into those ads and help you kind of analyze how you should go about, that project. And if you're like, well, I don't even know where to start with Facebook, go to Claude, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm a marina with 300 slips. I'm looking to market better on social media. How would you recommend I go about it and execute on what I just talked about? Have it develop the strategy and put some comments in the document and ask it to fill in any of the areas that you don't know how to tactically execute on. And it can help you provide a playbook on where to focus and how to execute. Great
Thanks,
question.
Brent. And then, yeah, that was a great question. Thanks, John. He actually has a second great question here, so I'm going to go right on to that one. What common mistakes do marinas make when implementing AI?
Um, sometimes we've seen folks use a tool that maybe not a starter tool, a little bit more advanced of a tool. They priming is probably the biggest one. The folks that are really successful using AI are really good at priming AI and putting the right information in to get the right query out of it. That said, you'll be surprised at, hey, I created a two-line prompt, and AI, especially Claude, is really good at figuring out what you're really looking for, and helping refine that. But um, using AI to generate really good prompts for other AI tools, other large language models, is a big one. We don't see a lot of folks using that. They just put a one or two line prompt in. They don't prime it properly. There's kind of holes in the data they start to use, or they try and use kind of like an outsized tool. The biggest issue, I think, is just fear about AI and people just not beginning to experiment with it. That's the biggest thing. Is I would just highly recommend getting your feet wet, experimenting with it. It's generally low cost. I mean, you can get a lot of these for free to start. Um, the other thing is, I would recommend. I mean, the $100 a month for Claude from a personal standpoint. Like, I have licenses to all of the models. Pay $100 a month personally for Claude. And then our company obviously pays a lot in terms of tokens for Claude, but the paid options are worth it, typically. So a lot of folks just use the free versions. It may be worth it to upgrade and see what some of the more advanced models are able to accomplish. The other thing too is they don't realize you can switch models, and you can have it give you quick responses, or you can have it do a lot of thinking on its own. A lot of people think, okay, they're using the light version, they're using the quick response, they get a quick response back, it's not that great. They're like, well, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work to get this where it needs to be. Well, you can switch models, and you can switch how much work the AI does in order to kind of
Right.
circumvent that and make it easier to use.
Yeah. And then, so most dis another question here from John. Most discussions focus on AI replacing admin work, but where do you see AI creating entirely new ways for marinas to operate over the next 5 years rather than making existing processes faster? So it's a
Um,
hard one. This is not a softball question.
yeah, there's a lot of that I think gets into where we think, AI is going to go, um, 5 years, kind of 5 years from now, 5 to 10 years from now. I think where we're going to see the biggest change is from an IoT perspective. From a non-IoT perspective, it's going to help us predict things a lot better, kind of based on weather, previous trends, what's going on in the market, like what will my occupancy rate look like for 2027, right?
Right,
Given my particular area, what boat sales look like, economic data, et cetera, fuel costs, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's going to
right.
really help us be able to predict our businesses a lot better. From an IoT perspective, we're seeing, or I think we will see a lot more integration of AI into the hardware devices at the marina. From a predictive maintenance standpoint, looking at that, have it look at kind of the what's happening on the boats from a GPS standpoint, being able to analyze that data. I mentioned earlier a lot of the super yachts. I think it's like 16% are using some form of AI-based navigation tools. So will the boats in the future be able to kind of self-navigate a lot better? And what
Hmm.
data can we get from the real world and pull that into AI? Um, One quick non-industry specific example that I think is really interesting. There's a car manufacturing plant here just outside of Savannah, Georgia. They believe in the next few years, the entire plant will be robotic. So they'll be able to produce cars without any human involvement. The reason for that is what's held back kind of IoT and robotics in the past is the ability for the robots to self-learn from their environment. If you have a robot that's going to work in a manufacturing facility, a software programmer would have to go in and program line by line everything that the robot needs to do and how it does it. Well, now with kind of predictive learning, which we talked about earlier, the robots can begin to learn from their environment. And so, just like a child learns how to walk, the robots can begin to learn to walk on their own and begin to learn how to interact with their environment. So, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And it's going to be really exciting how AI is going to impact not just the digital world, but the physical world, if that helps answer the
Yeah,
question.
yeah, very good. That's really interesting. John, thank you for those questions. You did my work for me, so I really appreciate that. We have one more question here, but before we get into that last question and you finalize, adding anything else you'd like to add at the end, yes, we will have this recording available to the everyone who registered. I'm going to send it out probably sometime next week via email. And then Brent, we did say the deck could be available, correct? I can send that along as well, and I can send your contact information to anyone that registered if you'd like.
Yes, we should be able to. I've got to generate that through our marketing team, but I don't think that
Yep,
will be a problem at
yep.
all.
Okay, sounds good. And then a last question here, and then you can also wrap up if you'd like. Does Molo offer APIs to any of the AI tools you've mentioned, i.e., to make internal data tie in more easily?
We have some updates coming that I can't talk about quite yet. But we've got some very exciting things that if you go to any of the conferences in the fall, you'll be hearing a lot more about. Uh,
Right.
we're very AI forward, so some new releases coming soon.
Great. Well, Brent, thank you very much. We are at 1:01 p.m., so we'll Eastern time here, so we'll call it a day. Thank you all for who are here for attending. Thank you for those questions, and feel free to reach out and remember to join us next month in August. It will be August by the time we see each other next. So, have a wonderful July, everyone. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks so much.